Hello and good morning. Welcome to another installment of Spiritual Health. And your eyes do not deceive you. There's three of us on the set this morning. And no, it is not the three wise men. It is two wise men and one host. So we're going to go right over to Doc, who's going to give a preface to today's or to this group of episodes that we will be doing. Doc, take it away.
Well, our third guest here today is Mr. Wally, as everybody calls him, right? From Paramin. He's reminding me in case I'm old and I forget.
From Parliament.
Pride of place. Yes.
Pride of Paramin. Excellent herbalist, taught by his ancestors, mother, father, and the grandmother starting. I have to say my mother taught me, so. But what we're going to try and do in the new year, you see, we have a problem. We have a problem like all small countries, or all countries that are dominated by bigger ones, is that whenever they want to foist anything on us, they come and they convince us that what we have doesn't work, and that we should buy what they have because it works better. So consequently, when people have acid reflux or anything like that, they go and they get all the various Nexium and proton pump inhibitors that are absolutely unnecessary 90% of the time. Most of the time it's probably a hydrochloric acid shortage and not an excess. But that's a topic for another day. What we're going to do over the next few months is we're going to talk about a tradition that is being bullied out into oblivion because everybody says that it doesn't work. I remember when my biggest daughter was very young, about 4 years old, she got asthma. And we had to rush her to the hospital, and it was the usual sprays and things like that, steroids. And a few months later, she got another attack, and it was back to the hospital. And I mentioned it to my mother. And she says, "What nonsense you're doing?" She says, "Send the girl down to me for holidays." So come August holidays, I sent her down there for a couple of weeks, she and her sister and her brother. And she came back 2 weeks later and she says, "Hey!" And so what happened? She said, "Mommy, wake me up early one morning, mom, and tell me to drink this." She said, "I drink it," and it was nasty. It was bitter. She said, about 15 minutes later, I started feeling bad. I started sweating and feeling real upset. She said, and finally, I went in the bathroom and in the lavatory, and she said, "I vomit out my guts. I vomit out all kind of thick mucus thing come out," and it was, the cough was real retching and violent. She said, and then it cooled down. She said, when it cooled down and I take a breath in, she said, I could have breathed easy for the first time. She said, and then Mama gave me something to clean me out on a tooth for the rest of the day. She said, and since that I've been feeling real good. So my mother picked up the phone and she says, "Your daughter is now all right." And she never had an attack of asthma for the rest of her life. To this day, she's absolutely healthy. Right? Now that is lost. Somebody gave me the name of that herb to use because I mentioned it once on my radio show on 91.1. I say, and I put it on a piece of paper and I lost the piece of paper, as things would have it.
The universe is ready for you to come back here.
So I thought what we would do over the next year is to re-establish our belief in herbs, because herbs do fantastic things that Western medicine cannot do. I do it all the time.
As we were saying off camera, there are some Eastern countries that still maintain their herbal traditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Japan still, on an average, 50% of the prescriptions are herbal prescriptions. What I cannot understand is that you have the Chinese system, you have the Ayurvedic system, you have the African system, And all of them have herbs that are very powerful.
Yeah, and homeopathy was somewhere
In Germany,
in Germany.
yes, Hahnemann,
Yeah.
which again is mainly herbs,
Yes.
right? It's not synthetic stuff that they take and do. So here you have, 90% of the world using herbs, and you're going to go to your doctor and he's going to tell you herbs don't work because somebody told him that and he's repeating it
Yeah, but
without any proof.
Isn't that some kind of a kind of misleading thing? Because most of the pharmaceutical drugs are derivatives of herbs.
Hello, God, let me get in. I'll get in there slowly.
Sorry.
Coming in.
Yeah.
So here you have it that a couple of years ago you found out that the Nigerian witch doctors, as they call them, they always have to have a derogatory name for them.
Yes.
They're really healers.
Yeah.
Found that there were large amounts of people coming in from universities asking to know what this herb doing and what that herb doing.
Yeah.
And of course, when they finished with it, they would take it and they would carry it out
Yeah.
and they would say, find a derivative for it. And what they would do is they'd go through the herb and find out what is the main ingredient in the herb that was causing that thing to heal. And then what they would do is they would synthesize it or try to synthesize it.
Right. So there's modern sleep.
Once they synthesized it, they would then put it on the market. Of course, to give you an example, if you take red yeast rice, we find that for well over 800 years, the Chinese have been using red yeast rice to remove excess fat from the blood in some people. Along came the pharmaceutical companies and they took red yeast rice, and out of that they made a compound called Lipitor. One of the worst side effects of Lipitor is loss of memory, bad loss of memory, to the extent that the astronauts in Cape Canaveral wrote a book, Lipitor, the thief of the memory, because they were trying to get them super fit, and what they did is they ended up losing their memory so bad that they had to call it off. Because, as I keep saying all the time, red yeast rice is a whole compound with all cofactors and things necessary as cofactors. So the side effects of red yeast rice are almost non-existent. Whereas Lipitor, which is just one thing taken out, So for instance, you had, they had vitamin C, right? So they found ascorbic acid and they say ascorbic acid is vitamin C. Only to find out that vitamin C is a whole range of compounds inside a fruit or inside a vegetable, and the body needs all those cofactors in order to process the one thing, which is ascorbic acid. So then they had ascorbic acid with rose hip and all other things added to it. In other words, they're trying to go back to the fruit.
They don't want to admit that they had it wrong.
They don't want to admit that they had it wrong.
Wrong.
So we have to clear that up. And we have all these, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, we have all these scientific doctors, right, who grow up in the midst of herbs. Now, currently, herbs don't work. Well, the medicine that they're using also don't work 90% of the time, because they just tell you, you have to be on it for the rest of your life.
Enslaved.
Yes. So just as how they did that with hydrogenated oil, and we all now have type 2 diabetes and all kinds of other things under the sun, starting with cancer and everything else, then that being one of the leading things that causes a lot of those problems. Just so we have that they're trying to discredit the herbs. But in the University of the West Indies, there's a place called the Herbarium, which has a tradition of noting herbs down 200 years. Right?
So that goes back well into the colonial area.
Well into the colonial area. You go back to old doctors' books written in the 16, 17, 1800s, even in the 1900s. You see a lot of herbal formulas. And they had compounding pharmacists. You see they used a lot of herbs. However, the drug companies have kind of pushed everybody out with the massive amount of money that they have. And now they're wanting to discredit everything. So the thing that we have to do is we have to revive this herbal thing. It's absolutely preposterous, I had somebody the other day come by me and said they had fibroids and the only thing they could do is operate on it. I say, no. I say, if you go in your yard, you'll see a little grass growing, and you pull it up, it just have a little knot underneath it, and it have 3 things stick out. Let's call it knot grass. I say, if you take that and you make tea with it, over a period of a year, it will melt your fibroids. That's one of the things that it is noted for.
The interesting thing is that you have to do it for a period of time.
Yes, because I think this is another thing that everybody, doctor, that back pain that I have for 4 years, and you woke on me yesterday, I get a little relief, you know, but last night the pain come back. Did it come back as was it was? No, it plenty less, but I expected it to be gone. As I say, expect a damage that you have inside your body to get caught overnight. How long you taking medicine to kill the pain? And for about 5 years. I say, ever call the doctor and tell him that the painkiller ain't working?
Because he's giving you a whole bottle. So you wouldn't bother him.
So we have allowed ourselves to become stupid. Stupid because we get brainwashed. We grow up with things around us doing things. Everybody knows that if you have a cut and you want it to heal, and it's a bad cut long ago, you used to take spider web and make a little ball with it and put some punching rum on it and then put it in the cut. Only to find out that the thing that the spider uses to make that web is exactly the same as the collagen and material in your wound. So your red blood cells don't have to go anywhere to find anything to build it. It could take just from that and rebuild the wound. Somebody in science had to say, it making sense.
And you clean.
So we can safely say that the scientists are now becoming wise. They're now learning the truth.
But it doesn't stop there. You know,
the wound.
for the last few months I've been talking about turmeric. And every time I pick up a scientific paper, I ain't talking about news, talking about things printed in science magazines, top of the world journals, find out that turmeric not only cleans the plaque out of the arteries in your head and brings you back from Alzheimer and dementia, granted it's a slow process, but now they're finding out that it also stimulates the stem cell in the brain to repair.
That is a serious discovery, because repairing your stem cell, that means you recover your mental faculties.
So, here the next thing. Pick up an article the other day and they say, greater penetration, one of the things about turmeric, it is hard to cross the blood-brain barrier. So we fry it in oil to help it to get into the system and then fritting it. And somebody found that when you put fenugreek with it, that it helps the turmeric cross the blood-brain barrier 45 times better than before. Now here the fun. The Indian section,
The Ayurvedic tradition.
in the Ayurvedic tradition, have been cooking curry for hundreds of years with turmeric and with fenugreek. So in that area, India, what do you have? Very little Alzheimer's and very little dementia.
That will explain why long ago, many moons ago, that all persons, the old people in the Ayurvedic tradition practicing, never used to be mentally challenged and think in their older age. They used to be vibrant and still cooking and cleaning and sweeping.
When I was young, and you're in the country, you always hear a man saying, or a woman, I have never been to a doctor in my life. And in the 70s and 80s. Because if you live with nature, then nature lives with you. You know, and it's very interesting. You know, I came upon a nice article here, which falls right in line. It says, research reveals that plants can think, choose, and remember. And they communicate over long distances with communication things that looks a lot like lasers.
So the plants had the internet before?
Long before we had it.
So they're on WhatsApp and Facebook.
So it is like the Red Indians say, that everything in the world is alive. And connected. And if you touch one thing and you poison one thing, you're going to poison everything.
Well, no, at this point, well, you should jump in here.
Yes.
Because he's a man of the herbs.
So,
Yeah.
as we talk about the fry ball just out there,
Mhm.
the fry ball, now you have the sage,
Mm-hmm.
raspberry,
Mhm.
and parsley.
Mhm.
Those three, you use those three, and it will melt the fry ball. bit. So you
And
use
this
a
is-
teaspoon, 2 teaspoons from each pack,
Right.
and you dissolve it in 3/4 cup of water, boiling water, and you drink that. It goes straight and melt the fry ball.
Be careful to tell them it does take a while.
Yes. So
A patient came to me the other day, she had a big fibroid. And she told me, she said, how long that will take to melt? I say, about 2 years. She said, so long? I say, how long it growing inside there? She said, well, I know I have it for at least 12 years. I said, but you expect it to go in a week or 2 weeks or a month. How is the body going to handle that mass of stuff that was built
That's why
in 2 months?
Yeah, that's why they go for surgery.
Yes.
Because they can't wait.
they can't wait.
And when they go for surgery,
You can't wait.
the doctor, of course, does do what he has to do. He's going to cut out everything.
You won't move.
And then nobody tells her that there's no more estrogen, no more other hormones. So her life from now till the end of her life is a wreck.
Yeah. And she vexes everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
And everything.
You know, you hear people say, I went and I had some gallstones and they take out my gallbladder. Every time she eats, it's horrors. Because nobody put her to sit down,
Nobody.
put him to sit down and tell him what is the purpose of the bile, what is the purpose of the gallbladder, and what role it plays, not only in your immune system, but in digesting the fats in your food, organizing your constipations, your body don't get constipated, and all kinds of things.
You know what, there too, and with the gallbladder, the stone crusher,
Yes.
that's it.
Chancapiedra.
Yes,
That's the-
there's always try to remember that name for it, Chancapedia. Very good. For
That's
you
what
take
he
care
saw.
of
That is the vine that is
the vine, yes, the ready little berry, right. That
You know, I was-
very good.
I was trying to remember something this morning. I was digging up in one of my herb books there, and there's a particular thing, and the fellow says it melts kidney stones, but it melts kidney stones that have a preponderance of phosphorus. I'm going to go and dig it out again, because whenever you have a phosphorus-based stone, and the kidney stone is very hard to melt. In fact, almost nothing melts it. So I say I must remember that, and so we could put it into the system.
And a lot.
You know, they were talking about the fact that that okras are good to eat, and he's saying that the researchers collected okra pods as raw materials, and they processed the vegetables using water extraction and alcohol precipitation techniques, and they underwent purification to produce 3 polysaccharides, okra polysaccharides. The purified fractions were labeled RPS1, RPS2, and RPS3. In turn, these fractions were subjected to dimethyl aminoacyl cellulose chromatography, a process that broke down the polysaccharides into their base components. They were also evaluated for their molecular weights, the type of monosaccharides that they comprised them, and the infrared and nuclear magnetic resonance spectra that they gave off. RAW264.7 cells were cultivated to create an in vitro cell model. The mice-derived cells were treated with either the extract of one of the crude okra polysaccharides. The immunomodulatory activity for each treatment was measured. RPS2 fraction was put through further in vitro testing. It was administered to both normal mice and immunosuppressed animals that have been injected with cyclophosphamide. The animals were sacrificed so that their spleen and blood could be analyzed for immunomodulating effect. They found that the monosaccharides in okra are the key to its immunomodulatory activity. The reason why I took time out to read a little bit of the science is to let people know that this is not a little piece of fly-by-night note that I got. You know, I pulled it off of a science site, and they went into great detail as to why the okra has immune modulators.
So that the pharmaceutical industry is putting a lot of money behind research into herbal.
Yes, into breaking down herbal things,
Right.
so that they then create synthetic equivalents.
Yes.
And then they'll tell you, God's stupid. He don't know what he's doing. We know what we're doing, right?
Imagine that.
And one of the things that he says here, one of the primary causes of immunosuppression is pharmaceutical drugs.
Okay. All right.
A lot of the diseases that they have, like arthritis and things like that,
Yeah.
what they do is they suppress the immune system because they say the immune system is eating up itself, you know, to point out simplistic phrase. But in actual fact, that is not quite true. It is based on limited observation that they had. Now they're changing that too. But to get back to the source of it, what we're saying is, and this is a program designed to get the audience to think.
Yes.
We have stopped thinking.
Yes.
We're allowing other people to think for their own motives and then to come and tell us any nonsense,
Right.
and we do it.
What we see it on social media.
Right? I've been making noise for years about the chicken in this town and the amount of steroids and you know, antibiotics.
Yeah.
And now we have that poison that is put to kill the bacteria,
Arsenic.
arsenic.
Yeah.
And the arsenic is getting into the waste, and they use the waste on the vegetables. So now we have a whole set of vegetables being grown in Trinidad with arsenic in it.
Yes.
And the trouble is we have nobody doing anything about it.
And the question is, do we have a testing lab or standards organization that will go after that kind of regulation?
I will answer you. Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Right? So we have billions of dollars to build roads, but we don't have a few million to set up a proper lab so that we could protect the people.
Right.
So what is happening is,
not protecting them, but we want them to be taxed.
and we want them to work,
Yeah.
and we're not doing anything to stop the illnesses.
Right.
And the illnesses are caused by the toxicity that we're adding.
Right. Yeah.
If you take fracking, now you're reading reports that where they're fracking, whole towns are going empty because all the water and all the land and everything is getting polluted. So it's one hell of a price to pay for a little bit of oil, you know, when they already have alternative things that they could use. You see, but it's the interests that you have. And what we do is we sit down as third world countries, and anybody that comes in from outside and tells us anything, we run and believe it. So we always get the dregs of everything, the ends, and we never find out the truth about what is going on. And here we're making a plea. We are going to show you herbs that we have. We went, Mr. Wally here went and got a whole lot of samples, and we're going to keep on bringing samples and taking pictures, because you know I have people and they have kidney problems, and sometimes I don't have the herbs necessary, and I tell them go and find money bush.
That's it.
And the first thing they ask you is, where's that?
All right. Well, let me show them what it looks like.
Right? In Texas, they have thousands of acres of money bush that they grow in order to treat kidney problems.
Right.
Now, we have a lot of kidney problems in Trinidad. You know where most of them coming from?
Money bush, kidney,
Yes, nice.
money.
Let's take out the leaf and show them. That's the leaf, right? And some of them, that's the leaf, and at the back, it has a little set of red hairs. There's one type that does that. But this is the pod. This is the pod. This is the green pod. What it looks like. This. Right? And you get it a little bit more. Looking for a dry one, but you don't have. But this dries and it turns brown. And sometimes the seed inside, when you do so, you can hear it rattle. Right?
Just crack the seed and eat it too.
One of the best things for stopping the protein loss in kidney problems is to take this, pong it up, put it in water, do a straight soak, and drink the water.
Drink the water. Or you take 5 leaves and draw it in 3/4 cup of water, boiling water. So draw it for 1 hour and drink that the first thing on your stomach on a morning.
Yes.
And you okay.
And you do it two,
Kidney,
three times, and,
three
and,
times.
it helps the kidney to
Yes.
stop losing protein.
Protein. You-
They know it all over the world. They know it all in the States. And we have it growing wild, going down the highway, and nobody knows it. So when you tell them, I have kidney problems,
Yeah.
and I went China to see if they could fix me. As a patient, that they tell me, he said, I just come back from China. I come by you, and my readings going down. And when I went to China and spent all this money, it went up. That's what we do. We believe that everybody has something better. And the things that we have right
here.
around. And there's some of the old Western doctors that will tell you, go and get this. Not the young ones. The young ones don't have a brain at all.
Yeah, they did Google research.
They lost without their cell phone.
The Google generation of
Now, don't get me wrong. Western medicine is very good at a lot of things.
Yes.
But if you proceed to have incompetent people, sometimes you have to say something about it.
Yeah,
The other thing about it is you can't go and tell people all the time that herbs don't work.
but you know,
When they have herbs right in the yard that will do a better job than the medicine that you've given them.
But they come and tell people herbs don't work, and all of a sudden they need more hospital beds. All of a sudden, as soon as people stop using their herbs, that the hospital full.
Then you have some people really complaining about the head spinning.
Yes.
Right? It's simple. Your head spinning, you start with 5 noni leaf, one every night. You just rest it on the forehead, you burn it and sleep with it. Before the 5 nights up, no more spinning head.
All right.
That's it.
Is that-
In Chinese medicine, we call that a kidney yin deficiency. And what you do is there is a herb called gastrodia that you give to the liver, and it calms the liver down and builds up the liver yin. And 95% of the time, it will stop the dizziness within a few days.
Yes.
You go to a Western doctor who has no appreciation of the energetics of the body.
Yes.
So he knows nothing about the electrical energy or the chi flowing, right? So is X-ray and all kinds of things, none of which will tell you anything. So the patients come to me and they say, hey, I spent $5,000 for this, I spent $2,000 for that, and they still don't know what's wrong. Take that. It's going to go in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're undermining your own credibility. Instead of opening your mind and saying, what is he doing, boy? Let me find out what he's doing so we could work with it too.
Well, you know how the fast food industry is dependent on return business. So I suppose we are fast food doctors. We're dependent that you're coming back.
And then we get afraid to question ourselves and to question when we do things and it don't work. Right? The United Nations have been talking about the uselessness of statin drugs based on their science for the last 3 or 4 years. 2 years ago, I read an 18-page scientific report on the whole structure. Right? They still have people feeding people really terrible statin drugs that just mash up your liver, destroy its ability to make CoQ10.
And they prescribe it and tell you which pharmacy to go and get it. Yeah.
You know, we have to stop doing that. We have to go back to being not what sickness we have, but how healthy we are, which is a whole totally different thing.
Yeah. Society based on that.
So one has to ask, you see me? I don't eat chicken.
Right.
Not that I don't like chicken, but
Can't trust it.
I refuse to eat the steroids and the arsenic and things that they put in the chicken.
Antibiotic.
And I always say that if all of us stop eating it at the same time, the people who grow in the chicken will stop